I'm Nix from NixPix, and today I'm going to be doing a Q&A video. My first question comes from Jason from 86.5, and he wants to know what made me start to make my videos. And actually, I've always wanted to make videos since I was in college. I majored in communications and thought that the coolest thing in the world would be to be able to sit into a dark, closed, cold room and just edit videos all day long. After college, I actually ended up getting a job in retail management, so I kind of deferred from that and did that for many, many years. About 10 years after we were married, we had our kids, and my son ended up being diagnosed with severe autism. So when he was about 5 years old, I decided to start a YouTube channel for him in documenting growing up with autism and autism awareness, and it grew into more of an autism awareness channel, and I did that for many years. About a month after starting his channel in 2008, I started my own channel called NixPix, and that was just really fun, random stuff. There was nothing special about it. It was just kind of fun things that I had wanted to do and watch and have fun with. Sort of an escape from reality for me. Flash forward to September of last year, we really just sort of got disgusted with all of the election stuff, and so we sort of turned off the TV and started watching YouTube videos. We love Disney. We've always loved Disney. We've taken the kids since they were very little, about 2 or 3 times a year. It's nice only living 2 hours from Disney, and I decided that could be something fun. That would be a great sort of escape for me. I was looking for something to make my own. I've been so active doing autism stuff for a while that I just kind of felt like I needed to kind of find myself again. And so after watching some of the great Disney videos that were out there, Tim Tracker and Justin from Random Land and all that, I thought, well, why not? We go to Disney all the time. I have all this footage. I love editing videos. So I kind of put the two back together again, and I've been having a lot of fun with it ever since. It also allowed me to continue my Random Hugs revolution, which if you want to know more about that, you can check out my website, and it explains kind of how that came about and why it's so important to me and my family. And that brings us to today, doing a Q&A. Most of my videos I do are more of a point of view video than an actual vlogging. My son loves to watch videos over and over and over and over and over again. So I decided that I was going to make videos that I wouldn't mind watching or hearing over and over and over again. And so that's why you don't see me talking into a lot of them. However, as I start to kind of run out of things to do that with as we go to the parks more often, you may see me start to try to vlog a little bit and bring a little bit more to the channel. Gareth and Laura asks, do I like fried, scrambled, poached, or boiled eggs for breakfast? If I'm going to have eggs by themselves, definitely scrambled. But however, my favorite meal of all times basically is Eggs Benedict. So I'll go for either one of those. They also want to know what my favorite cheese is. And that would be cheese. Any kind of cheese. I love cheese. If I had to pick a favorite, I probably would pick extra sharp cheddar. Or like when you make Parmesan Crispies, those are just die for it. Love those. Tracy wants to know, another food question. Tracy G wants to know, peanut or chocolate M&Ms? Definitely peanut M&Ms for me. Gareth and Laura also asked, what country would you most like to visit? Well, I'm going to say England/Scotland, so because if I ever make it over there, it probably will be only once, and I'll want to be able to see both places. And that sort of started a while back. I started reading the Outlander series and went through all of the books, read all the novellas, then was really excited when they started the TV show, and then I watched all the TV shows, and that made me sort of question a little bit more about my heritage and ancestry. So I got into the whole Ancestry.com thing and became really obsessed with that, because I had to find out if I had any Scottish in my background. I did, but I had to go back like 14 generations, so I'm not quite sure that I can count that. But what I did find was that I had a lot of English in my family. And then they came over here to America in the early 1700s. And so I've just always sort of been a little bit obsessed and would love to go back and see some of the places that I've researched and read about. In connection with that, Tracy G asks, if you could live anywhere else in the world, where would it be and why? Well, that's kind of a hard question to answer because I live in Florida and I'm only 2 hours from Disney, and it really is sort of a tropical paradise in many ways, and so I do love where I live. But if I had to pick another location, I probably would pick St. Simon's Island in Georgia. When my ancestors came over in 1730 with Oglethorpe, they were actually granted some land in St. Simon's Island, and unfortunately that left the family, and they moved over to Little Cumberland, where they had a lot of land also, but I think I would always want to go back to St. Simon's Island and live there if I had any other choice. Caroline from Sean Vlog asks, if you were going to be stranded on a desert island and could take 3 things, what would you take? Well, I would take a knife, I would take a blanket, and I would take my sunglasses. And then she asked if I could only take 1 thing, what would that be? And I went with magic beans. Okay, this segment is going to touch on autism and how we deal with it in the family and at the parks, and so I thought it would be appropriate to do it outside here. That's Ricky swinging in the swings. The first question is from Caroline from Sean Vlog, and she says, how do you find dealing with autism at the parks and in a daily life? Well, first of all, if you're going to have to deal with autism, probably the best place to do it is in the parks. I have always looked at going to the parks with Ricky as therapy for him, because can be a very overwhelming place. It can be very loud, it can be very busy, and there can be lots of people there. But it's important to put him through those things, because the more he goes through those things, the better he will be. So we do our best to make sure that he is the most comfortable that he can be. And I like to hope and think that Disney is one of the safer places to be to do that. If he is going to run off really quick, I know that it's not going to be in a road and in front of a car. So I've always looked at taking Ricky to Disney as part of his therapy. Now, if the insurance company could see it that way, we'd all be set. Every day dealing with autism is different for every family, because every child is different. I'm sorry, I keep looking at him swinging and not at the camera. Every child is so different, and their needs are also different. But probably the biggest thing is just not knowing what to expect. Even though he can be very regulated about some of the things he does, you just never know when he's going to have that moment and have a meltdown or have a situation. And those are the kind of things that when you're in public that you just learn to deal with, and you just learn to move on. Caroline also wanted to know what my coping mechanism is, and I would say in a moment of high anxiety, my coping mechanism is meditation. I found that it really works, and it helps me out a lot. In a broader stream, disappearing into my room and editing videos is always a great way to sort of escape from the reality of life sometimes. Let's see. Sean from Sean Blog asked, what is the most difficult thing when dealing with autism? And I would say that's probably the social aspects of it. He does not really have any sort of reality check on what is socially acceptable and what is not socially acceptable. And growing up here in Florida, he, as in many people, or I should say many babies growing up, basically probably wore nothing more than their diapers and a t-shirt at most, because it's just so hot and you're outside and you're in the pools or you're in the hose or you're having fun. So getting him adjusted to wearing clothes and shoes was a huge step for us. I remember when he first started marching around in shoes, they weren't his shoes, they were my shoes, or my husband's boots, or my high heels, or things like that. And instead of being taken back by that, I just sort of rewarded him for it, because at least he was wearing shoes appropriately. So that's just some of the hardest things, is dealing with others' views of what is socially accepted or not. Sean asks, what is the most rewarding thing about dealing with autism? And funny enough, it's almost the same thing. It's watching other people go out of their way to do things to make my son comfortable or happy. I am not one to get emotional a lot. I do try to be more logical about things, but anytime I see somebody or I think about somebody doing something for him, going out of their way, I get very emotional over it. And it's very rewarding to see that there are a lot of really good people out there. Okay, moving on. Gareth and Laura want to know, when you stumble and fall, who or what picks you up? Well, I would have to say that's my husband. We've been a team for a really long time. We were married for 10 years before we had the kids. And we basically do everything together as far as how we decide what's going to be done and how things are going to be done. And he really is there for Ricky all the time. He's his best friend. They've started their own YouTube channel called Fort Wilderness Ricky. I'll put the link down below. And he really is with Ricky all of the time and just makes sure that he's happy and living a happy life. And so that's who that is. The next question is, I've gotten off track here, hold on. Melissa from Method to the Magic says, what tips would you give for a family with child with autism traveling to Disney for the first time? And that's, I would say there's probably two different ways to go. There's my husband now, he's on the mobility scooter. They don't have to have mobility scooters, they use them for fun, because another concept that Ricky doesn't get is brakes. He even stops his bike with his feet, Fred Flintstone style. So once he got too big to ride around on the little, battery operated cars and stuff that you buy for your kids, we went through quite a few different vehicles and found out the hard way that he just was not going to grasp a brake. So we found that the little mobility scooters are great because once you let off of the gas, they stop. So they get on them and ride around the property on them, and it's just part of their daily routine. Back to Melissa's question. What tips would you give for a family with child with autism traveling to Disney for the first time? I would say it depends on the child. If the child is really eager to go and knows sort of, maybe they're a little bit older, maybe they're a little bit more functioning, then I would definitely go get the special needs pass. And you can do that at guest services when you walk in, and they'll take his picture and they'll link it to his magic band, which will last, it used to be 3 months. I don't know if they've made it any longer, which is great because you don't have to go up to the window every time, because again, sometimes the lines are really long at the windows and then you're not even waiting for something fun. But it's, I would do that if you're planning on going on a lot of rides and it's a busy day and they have the comprehension, like I had mentioned earlier, about being able to walk away and coming back to it. If your child is sort of younger and maybe they've never been to Disney, I really would just use the fast passes. I wouldn't even probably bother with the special needs pass. I would just plan out your fast passes so that they are as close together as possible. You can always lap them so that you go on 2 right in a row, and then you have to wait an hour for the next one. But that's fine because then you can stop and eat, get a treat, whatever. And there'll always be something that motivates your child. If you have a child with autism, you know all about rewards. For Ricky, it was lollipops. I probably have 100 different pictures of him with 100 different lollipops from each trip. And that was something that he always, if he went on a ride, he would go through the gift shop and he would get a lollipop. We did switch over to the sugar-free after a while, so that helped also. And learn where the quiet spots are, where you can take your child just so that they can sit for a moment and relax. And you just have to remember that you're there for them and just, don't be too concerned about what everybody else thinks. Sean from C. Sean Vlog asked, where do you see yourself in 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years? Well, in 1 year, I probably see myself doing the exact same thing that I'm doing now. Ricky's settled into a great high school. He goes to the Learning Academy at the L Center for Excellence, which is becoming a leading school internationally. And I could not be happier about that. And I would say that I'm just sort of doing the same thing that I'd be doing now. 5 years from now, he will be 20 years old. Right now, the school system only allows you to be in school until you're 21. So we would, if that changes, then he may have a couple more years. But at that point, we'll probably be deciding what we're going to do afterwards. He is severely autistic. He will never live on his own. He'll always be with us. So our future will always include him, and the plans that we make and the things that we do. Probably still doing all of our trips to Disney and things like that. 10 years from now, I hope to be in Disney all the time. Maybe my channel will grow really big, and that'll kind of just continue to be a fun escape for me and something for me to do, and something for the family to enjoy. If you have any more specific questions about autism, I just touched on a few things today, please go ahead and reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to have any kind of conversation with you, from just the social aspects to the daily life to trying to get through potty training, and puberty. That's where we're hitting that. He's 15 now, so that's interesting. And I'm a pretty open book. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, so feel free to reach out to me. Tracy G asks, what made you first fall in love with Disney? And I would have to say, I'm a native Floridian, so I grew up going to Disney. I would say I first had a crush on Disney. I don't know that I went there as often as I take my kids there, but I definitely remember staying in Fort Wilderness and camping and being on the Fort Wilderness train that used to be there, and going to the parks and falling asleep and having my dad carry me out when I was way too big to be doing so. But I would say I fell, and then we started going as a family, and we went through the whole adjustment of taking Ricky there. My daughter loves Disney and all the movies and everything that go with it. And once we started going to Disney, it got to be a situation where it wasn't so much about all of us as it was just trying to get Ricky through it. So at one point, Ricky had sort of stopped wanting to go into the parks, and he and my husband spent a lot of time in Fort Wilderness itself, but I now go over into the parks with my daughter, and we just sort of have a whole different reality on it and a whole different look on it, but it's still the one place that we all go as a family and that we can all be a family together, and I would say that's the point that I really fell in love with Disney.
There you go. That's cool.
On behalf of the cast of the Walt Disney World Resort, welcome to the Magic Kingdom. No smoking, please. Please hold on to the handrail.
So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the Disney questions. And the first one comes from Jason from 86.5, and he asks, if you were being chased by a man in a kabuki mask and Baymax wasn't available, which Disney character would rescue you and why? So I had to think about this one, and in fact I was told I was thinking too much about the answer. So my first instinct and the first thing that I wanted to say was Mulan, because I'm not one for waiting, and I figured, so if somebody's going to rescue me, I already want them with me, and who better to have fun with and stroll down the road with than Mulan, and I knew that she would be a great hero to protect me. Nate and Craig from Marvel the Magic ask, what are your must-dos at Disney? Well, for rides, Test Track. We love Test Track. We love going in and creating the cars, and having lots of fun with that. If you've watched any of my videos, there's a couple test track videos, and there will probably be a couple more at least. It's something I always have fun doing when we go. For food, what do I do every time is definitely we go to France, and we go and get the ham and cheese croissant and the quiche Lorraine, and love that. That's a must do. Usually I'll get a mimosa to go with it. Park activities. We like everything about all the parks, of course we do, but something that we really enjoy doing is going to the shows. We're a big Broadway family. My daughter is very involved in theater and stage managing, and so it's something that we always love watching, and we usually at the end will wait, and we've had several really great conversations with the stage managers who are thrilled to see us, because not many people wait to talk to the tech crew, and it's really been a great thing, and that's something that we always really enjoy. Cherry from Disney Beams asks, what are your favorite picture spots at Walt Disney World? Well, I don't take a lot of selfies. Most of the pictures I take are of things at Disney. So hands down, my favorite thing to take a picture of is the castle. I'm kind of obsessed with the castle. It's really kind of, I love it. I also like taking pictures of the Epcot ball. And I like really far pictures of Mount Everest over in Animal Kingdom. Damien in India asks, if you could theme a whole park around one movie, what would it be and why? This one I'm going to sort of answer on behalf of my daughter, because I know that it would make her really, really happy, and that would make me really, really happy, and I think it would be really cool, and that would be Nightmare Before Christmas. I think how cool would that be that you could go to a park year-round and it's either always Halloween or it's always Christmas, and I think that would just be awesome. Sean from Sean Vlogs asks, if you could design a new pavilion and ride for Epcot, what would you design? And I think I would design a Polynesian area, and it would definitely center around Moana. And I think it would be really cool to have like a roller coaster that was all about the ocean voyage, and it be sort of a part water ride. And that's what I would do. Nate and Craig from Marvel the Magic asks, if you could change anything about the park for the better, what would you change? On a serious note, when we first started going to Disney, we were able to get the handicap pass for my son, and we were able to go right onto the ride through the handicap queue, and that really worked out very well for us, because he kind of has to keep moving. He doesn't do very well when he's kind of standing stagnant. As long as you can kind of keep him moving, that's great, which is one of the reasons why I really do like the way Disney has improved their queue lines in allowing more things to look at and more things to watch and do, especially on some of the younger rides, and I think that's a really, really great thing they did. But if I couldn't bring back the Great Movie Ride, and I couldn't bring back the animation area in Hollywood Studios, I think that definitely I would try to add more quiet spaces, more places where you can just kind of escape and relax and take a break, and then kind of get back into it. I think that would sort of benefit a lot of people. The next question is from Caroline from Sean Vlog, and she asks, what's your favorite Disney book and why? Now I have to be honest with you, I couldn't really think of a book off the top of my head, other than it maybe just being a documentary about something. But if I was younger and maybe in high school or before that, I know there's a series of books that they have out where there are things that happen after the park closed, and I thought that sounded like a really cute thing, and I wish I had that when I was young. Well, that's it for the questions. Thank you so much for stopping by, and thank you for sending in the questions. They were really great. If you want to stick around to my channel and follow me on our adventures, you can go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the parks. Bye.